Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the objective ledger for WTI crude oil as of July 22, 2026. What we're looking at here is a precise structural ledger based on the proprietary geometric market DNA system. We aren't here to guess, and we certainly aren't here to predict. We're strictly documenting the observable, predefined structural coordinates for this specific market cycle.
Here's how we'll break down today's structural ledger. We'll cover system rules and disclaimers, Phase 1 cycle initiation, Phase 1 risk calculation, Phase 1 expected returns, Phase 2 boundary contact, and finally the status of Phases 3 and 4. Keep in mind as we go, Phases 1 through 4 are strictly labels for structural states, not chronological steps.
Okay, let's start with Section 1, System Rules and Disclaimers.
Before we look at any data, please note these absolute rules carefully. First, this is not financial advice. Leverage above 10 is strictly prohibited. Do not invest essential personal funds. And finally, this analysis is solely part of public model documentation. Our tone today is purely documentary. There's zero prediction happening here, and we won't be comparing this to technical analysis, fundamental analysis, or any external methods. We are only describing visible, predefined events.
Moving on to Section 2, Phase 1, Cycle Initiation.
Here we have the initial encoding layer. Our primary entry, labeled M, is firmly set at $83.905. We also have an optional secondary entry, labeled P, sitting at $71.353. From these two observable points, a mean entry is established at $77.629. We aren't interpreting these points at all. We are simply logging them into our ledger as the origin coordinates for this cycle's geometry.
Right, let's move to Section 3, Phase 1, Risk Calculation.
The structural inputs you see here are locked in, establishing a rigid framework for risk calculation. Let's run through the parameters. We're working with a hypothetical capital of $100,000. The expected maximum drawdown is capped at 5%, which is $5,000. The forward trapezoid time duration is set to exactly 80 days. Remember, the trapezoid simply represents future time plus a price interval. The third triangle domain is fixed at 36.36% with a risk coefficient of 1. Finally, the contract size is 1,000 barrels. This gives us a completely closed, objective mathematical environment.
Under the strict rules of the system's documentation, I have to state the following methodology exactly as written for the record. Both trade sizes are calculated using the hypothetical capital, the investor's maximum allowed drawdown, the third triangle domain percentage, the risk coefficient, and the contract size.
So running that exact formula with the fixed parameters we just documented yields a definitive, non-negotiable result. Each trade size equals exactly 0.09. That is the mathematically derived position sizing for both the M and the PC entry coordinates.
Next up is Section 4, Phase 1, Expected Returns.
Let's log the specific coordinates for our targets using simple arithmetic. Target 1, representing the mirror delay or lower trapezoid boundary, is at $86.43. Target 2, which is apex N, sits at $99.26. And Target 3, the trapezoid top, is located at $108.44. Looking at the math, Scenario 1, assuming an entry at M and an exit at T3, projects a profit of $2,208, which is a 2.2% return. Scenario 2, assuming entries at both M and PC and exits at T2 and T3, projects a total profit of $4,719, or a 4.72% return. It's important to document that the secondary entry coordinate, PC, may or may not actually be reached by price. Both scenarios are simply mathematically modeled possibilities based on the grid.
Now for Section 5, Phase 2, Boundary Contact.
Notice the strict interaction of price action against our predefined geometry. Price reached exactly $86.43, interacting precisely with the trapezoid lower boundary. Because of this, Phase 2 is documented as officially completed. Up to this exact point, initial positions were opened at the M coordinate of $83.905 and the PC coordinate of $71.353. We state this with absolutely no explanation or interpretation. It is simply what has visibly occurred.
Finally, we have Section 6, Phases 3 and 4, Status.
Looking ahead to our structural constraints, Phase 3 activates strictly upon the condition that price reaches the coordinate for apex N, which is the N event. Phase 4 completion is triggered upon price reaching the trapezoid top, at which point a performance summary detailing realized return and drawdown against the Phase 1 plan would be provided. However, I must emphasize strongly, the chart is fixed and complete. Any future movement toward those points is explicitly not shown today. We do not complete the chart, we do not add price data, and we do not assume the path. Since the data is not visible, it is simply not shown.
As we conclude this unvarnished, purely documentary explainer of market DNA's Oil Cycle 4, we're left with the reality of a completely constrained structural system. Remember, if fractals appear, they simply signify a new independent cycle, restarting Phase 1. The ledger is set, the math is fixed, and Phase 2 boundary contact has been logged. For further public model documentation, you can reference marketdnaedge.com. So with the structural coordinates locked in place and the boundaries strictly defined, how will the market navigate the structural constraints next?